Duty, Honor, and Country is the official motto of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in New York State. Brimming with history and natural beauty, it's an inspiring and rugged training ground for hopeful Army leaders to test their character. But what is it like to attend?
So I'm from Eugene, Oregon, Pacific Northwest, born and raised, and that's my home. So I've really always enjoyed doing just anything and everything outdoors and getting my hands a little bit dirty.
Cadet Orion Van Buskirk grew up in Eugene, Oregon. No military background, just a love of the outdoors and a hunger for a challenge. West Point offered a free, world-class education and a path unlike any other. What he didn't expect was what it would teach him about service.
CFT, Cadet Field Training, and you're there for about 4 weeks at Camp Buckner, which is a camp we have out in the training area. And I just remember there was one road march on our field training exercise.
But West Point doesn't warn you about the difficult moments.
West Point, it is absolutely beautiful, but very, very mountainous, very rocky terrain. Lots of very steep hills going up and down and up and down, and very heavily forested as well. So we had a 4-kilometer movement though, and I remember starting off on that movement, and the weather was great. It's just a sunny day, the birds were chirping, so we were just on our merry way, and we had gotten about 3 kilometers into the movement. It just started flash flooding out of nowhere. And we were on this very steep terrain, and so the mud just started washing down. And the protocol when you hear thunder is, you have to shelter in place. We pulled out our ponchos, extended the buttstocks on our M4s, and we kind of just got into the fetal position and hiked the ponchos up over the barrel of a rifle, kind of like a little teepee. And we were just hunkered down there in this thick forest, just getting absolutely washed. And those ponchos are quote unquote waterproof, but the rain was just rinsing right through them, dripping on your head. And I remember sitting under my poncho, and I saw this big quarter-sized red spider, and I kind of freaked out. I threw my poncho off, and I shook the thing off. And all my buddies around me were like, "What are you doing, man? What's going on?" And I just decided, man, this is kind of a bummer of a situation. I think we should just try to make the most of it. And I remember someone started making some goofy noises. And next thing you know, everyone, they're just making like monkey noises and just doing goofy stuff. And before you know it, we were actually having a pretty good time. We ended up, and it just kind of devolved into a situation that was a really memorable situation.
For Cadet Van Buskirk, that moment says everything about what he's learning at West Point.
I'm very excited to see how my experiences shape the leader I am, but as of right now, I want to be a people-first leader.
In this episode of Army Matters, Lieutenant General retired Les Smith sits down with Cadet Orion Van Buskirk of the United States Military Academy at West Point. They discuss what drew him there, how it is helping him find his purpose, and what his hopes are for the future. I'm Carrie Varuhaikis, and this is Army Matters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Army Matters. I am your co-host, the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Daly, and Vice President for NCO and Soldier Programs at your Association of the United States Army. And I am here with my very best childhood friend.
Your very best childhood Army friend.
Yeah, I forgot I'm sorry. Army friend.
Army friend, not childhood friend. Yeah.
That's right.
Lieutenant General Retired Leslie Smith, the 66th Inspector General of the United States Army, and your Vice President for Leadership and Education here at the Association. And yes, we were bare children when we were in the Army, but it made us grow up pretty quick. What do you think, Dan?
They did. We're still trying, though. I'm working on it every day. Every day.
Every day.
Now, Les, thinking back to when you joined the Army, what was your cadet experience like? And where'd you go to school first? Where'd you go to school?
Yes. Undergrad, Georgia Southern. It was college then, and now it's a university.
Okay, Georgia Southern University.
Georgia Southern, go Eagles.
Tell me about day one of not joining the university, but of cadet, when you went to join the Corps of Cadets. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's a great story because, I joined this thing called the Simultaneous Membership Program, which means...
Wait, say that again? The what?
Simultaneous Membership Program.
Membership Program. Okay.
SMP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that means you join a Guard or Reserve unit at the same time when you join ROTC. So I'm a freshman joining the Army, National Guard, but I was an MS3, which is a junior level cadet as a freshman.
So you're in a Guard unit though at this time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So I feel
a lot.
Yeah, you got a lot of questions? Okay.
I do. Just real quick. I mean, so I get it. I'm good with ROTC. I was a trade ops army major, right? Yeah. I'm good with that.
It was really hard. So if you think about a freshman coming in college, trying to figure out who they were, but then in this case, I was an MS3 with all the juniors who'd already had 2 years of experience. So I had to raise the level of my game quick.
Yeah. You had to speed up.
But here's the thing I learned about it.
Yeah.
Was that I learned so much about soldiers and soldiering as a soldier before I became an officer. So I'm not proud of service as such, but that time counted toward my promotion and everything else. Yeah.
And you were just one of the soldiers, right? I mean,
I was just one of the soldiers, one of the Joes. But again, they knew I was going to be an officer, so they treated me a little different. Like, hey, cadet, hey, you future lieutenant, let me tell you how you need to operate. I just listened. Time in the barracks, man.
Yeah.
And I had great RTC instructors that summer.
Yeah.
Then we ended up just becoming good officers because we listened to our NCOs like you're supposed to anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. You should just still do that today. That'd be more,
I do. I listen to you within reason.
Being more effective if we should work that way. Yeah.
You have me walking into things, so it's all good.
So you got a chance to sit down by yourself. I wasn't with this one.
Yes.
With a cadet from West Point.
He's good. He's a great trooper. He's got a great story.
So what year is he in now?
I think he's a junior or a senior. He's a cow or was it yearling?
It's a plebe,
freshman,
yearling,
sophomore,
cow,
junior,
and firstie,
and senior. Yes.
So how was the conversation and what stood out the most to you? Did it bring you back to your cadet days? Did you reminisce? Did you reminisce at all?
I did, but I was a commandant, a brigade commander commandant, and then the commanding general for Fort Leonard Wood. And then of course the deputy IG and the IG. So I interact with cadets all the time.
Well, why don't you introduce the young man to our listeners?
Cadet Orion Van Buskirk, welcome to Army Matters, brother.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here again, and it really is. I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Okay, help us out here now. Tell us about your name, Orion, and why your parents chose that over other names.
Yes, sir. So I mentioned to you, my dad really wanted to name me Oz, like Ozzy Osbourne, and my mom said no. So as unfortunate that is, and I think that'd be a pretty sick name, but I got Orion, which is, Orion the Hunter in Greek mythology and everything like that. So I'm all right with it.
All right. So do you think the listeners your age know who Ozzy Osbourne is?
Oh, sure. I hope so.
Really?
I hope so, sir. Yeah, I think so. He's a legend.
He's a legend? I mean, Why do you know about him? Are you like a music buff or what are you?
I wouldn't say a music buff, sir, but I definitely love music. And Ozzy Osbourne. If you know rock music, you know Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so tell us about where you're from originally, and about you as a kid growing up, the things that you did before you even thought about going to West Point.
Yes, sir. So I'm from Eugene, Oregon, or actually Springfield, Oregon, but we say Eugene, and Pacific Northwest, born and raised, and that's my home. So growing up, doing a lot of those outdoor things and, rafting, kayaking, fishing, crabbing, hiking, just lots of time in the outdoors and camping and everything like that. So I actually think that's where I kind of had that seed sown for the military, kind of want to do that type of military stuff in the outdoors. Is I've really always enjoyed doing just anything and everything outdoors and getting my hands a little bit dirty. And Oregon's just the best place to do that. So yeah, Eugene, Oregon, born and raised, and Go Ducks. I have to slip that in. Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. Okay, I was wondering how long it was going to take for that. So it's all good. So, what was your perspective on the military? Before joining West Point, what did you think? What did you know, and what didn't you know?
Oregon really is not a big military state necessarily. There's no major bases there other than National Guard and everything. So I didn't really know too much about it other than what I see in movies and TV. I didn't come from a military family. My dad's a firefighter of about 27 years at the Eugene Springfield Fire Department. So I think that kind of gene of civil service was in our family a little bit. And I always kind of had an appreciation for civil service. But the military, I kind of knew what I had heard and what I'd seen. So it wasn't really until I got interested in West Point that I started kind of looking into the Army and figuring out if that was good for me.
So your dad was a firefighter. Is there a history of first responders or military service in your family?
No, sir. So his dad was actually in the 101st between Korea and Vietnam.
Okay.
So he got out at a relatively good time, I suppose. But he was in the 101st, and he was in a band, and they're both musicians. So they played the trumpet, both of them, and he civil service, I would say.
Okay.
Civil service, yes.
Okay, so let's pull it through a little bit. What instrument do you play, Orion?
I grew up playing the piano. I took some lessons, and I can play the piano, but actually, I used to do a little bit of singing and acting and theater and stuff like that back in the day. But yeah, I'm trying to learn the guitar. My girlfriend got me an acoustic guitar, so I'm learning. But as of right now, I do not. So,
what made you first consider West Point, and how did you weigh that against other options?
A lot of people you talk to, their reasons for coming here and the reasons for staying change, and I've mentioned that, but I think my reason for coming is, West Point provides a great opportunity in that it's a free education. It's a very, very good education, highly regarded. I think the alumni network is very strong. And, if you can make it in and you're up for it, then it's free in the monetary sense. And I think that's what got me, because I was really trying to look for an economic opportunity for myself and my family, and something that I wouldn't, necessarily be able to do otherwise. And so I think that's what drew me in. And then, of course, after coming here and after really learning what service means to me, and, seeing the fantastic officers and NCOs, and my reason for staying here is certainly different than my reason for coming here in the first place.
So when you were in high school, what was the reaction when people found out that you wanted to go to West Point?
Yes, sir. So a lot of people hadn't even heard of West Point in Oregon. It was, I had to explain to a lot of my classmates what West Point is. Nothing out of the ordinary, I would say, until people really learned what it is and learned that it might be something that's a little bit off the beaten path in terms of the requirements.
What do you think that, and this is just, of course, your opinion, what do you think that West Point and the other service academies should do to help educate young people about what the options are? We're talking about West Point because we think that's the best one. What do you think they should do to help educate?
And I think they do a lot right now. We have outreach programs where students across the nation are hearing from West Point cadets word of mouth. West Point cadets are traveling back to their hometowns. We have an outreach program where they get in contact with people that might be interested in service academies. And I think that's the right approach. But other than that, I think just maybe somehow getting it out there that West Point and these other service academies are institutions that really create a strong lineage of both, not only officers, but workers in the civilian sector as well, and just kind of advertising them as what they really are and what they have provided people in terms of careers.
Tell us about your first visit to West Point right before you signed the papers. How did it feel to be there, right there on the Hudson River?
Yeah, well, first impressions, I think most people's first impressions is beautiful. Just a really, really beautiful location on the Hudson. And, it looks like Hogwarts, just castles, big, every building made of big stone and granite. And I was just really taken away with how beautiful it was. And then I was really enamored with the way the cadet life too. Everyone's wearing uniforms, everyone's all neat and formed up in formation. And at my first impression, I was like, wow, I was really impressed. I'd never seen anything quite like it before.
Right. So you didn't do ROTC or anything in high school?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sir. I was just a normal athlete,
Normal athlete
and student.
Yeah. What sports did you play in high school?
Yeah. So I played. I grew up playing soccer and track and basketball, and then in high school I played soccer for 2 years. I did track for 3 years. I did football for 3 years. I did lacrosse for a year. So I kind of had my hands in everything a little bit.
Nice. Did you find that was helpful for your application?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not only helpful for my application, but just helpful for everything.
Yes.
For the Army.
Yeah, especially for track and field. So
yeah.
What was it like that first day you arrived? Now, what do you call that day?
Yeah, so we call that our day, sir. I don't know
Our
if you're
day.
familiar.
I am
Our
very
day.
familiar. Yes.
Our day is its own, storied kind of thing. But our day for me was such a blur. It went by so fast. I only remember, bits and pieces from when I was a new cadet. But you get your head shaved. I remember sitting out there in the sun with the sun beating down on my bald head, and I reached up to feel my head, and someone yelled at me, like, "Put your hand down." I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in something else now. I don't know what I got myself into here. Putting on the PT uniform they give you is way too big. So, sitting there in this ill-fitting clothing, and I'm bald, and it was it's a weird day, but I think it's a pretty transformational day, no doubt.
So now, since you had a chance to reflect on that, and you had a chance to be on the other side of our day, what do you think that taught you from the beginning?
One of my most memorable experiences here, and I was talking about it earlier, is being the cadre for cadet basic training. So being on the other side of our day, like you said, it really just showed me how much rehearsal and effort is put into, making our day happen, and how much the cadet cadre really care about the other cadets. When I was a new cadet, I thought they were mean. They're doing the shark attack thing, but now that I've been on the other side, I can definitely say, like, those cadets that do that basic training cadre, they really, really care about all those new cadets on our day and for the next, 6 weeks after that. So pretty special thing.
You said earlier that you didn't fully understand service until you got to West Point. What changed for you? And then tell our listeners, what was a specific moment you can describe?
Service for me, when I realized what that was for the first time, was during cadet basic training. One moment kind of sticks out to me. A couple weeks into cadet basic training, we had kind of a sit down event where we were, the intention was to really get us to reflect and to open our minds up and kind of understand, that this is a long lineage of people who have a very, very proud service history. And so we were able to talk to some officers that told us some very personal stories about, their friends, their loved ones from their time in combat and their time in service. And it was an extremely humbling moment. It was a lot of reflection was done that day. And I think, looking back at that was the moment that stuck out to me, is where I really realized that the Army is something more than just, the nation's biggest employer. It's something more than just this massive organization, the DoD, that, there's nothing deeper than that in terms of the things that people have not only been through, but the things that people have willingly, sacrificed, willingly done for the service of others. And I think that's something that I came to realize when I got to talk to just the incredible officers and NCOs that they have here at West Point.
Okay. All right. So life at West Point as a freshman, you're called a plebe, which is really a tough way of living, as you know. Describe for our listeners the life of a plebe at West Point.
Yes, sir. The plebe, is kind of infamous for being at the bottom of the barrel, but plebe wakes up at 6:00. They put on the uniform, they shave, they comb their hair, and they go out to do duties. So morning duties for them is consistent of cleaning. So they're broken up by platoon in the company. So they're cleaning the hallways, taking out the trash, they're mopping the floors, and then they have to call minutes. You stand there at attention on the wall, and you're like a human alarm clock. So 10 minutes before formation, or sometimes even 15 minutes before formation, you're standing at attention, you're sounding off. Like, it's a whole ordeal, but you're basically yelling how many minutes there are left until formation. And then you go into morning formation, you go into breakfast. Everyone sits down at breakfast at the same time and eats at the same time. It's a 15 to 20-minute ordeal. They bring the food to the table, and you eat with your pre-assigned table within your company. Then you go into class. You might have...
Hold on for a second. You skipped something. What's the plebe responsibility at breakfast?
Oh, yeah, they're calling the table. I'm glad you know about that, sir. So the table commandant, which is usually a firstie or a senior, will kind of call on them. And before anybody can touch their food, before anybody can eat, the plebe has to call the table.
Hold on now. Come on now. You can't just do that.
All right. So if you were to call the table, you say, I'd stick my hand out. You call it a paw. You got to have a fist. I stick my fist out, and they call me. I say, sir, permission to call the table. They say, permission granted. I say, sir, the fourth class cadets to this table have performed their duties and are now prepared to eat. And I got to wait on his response. And hopefully he says, eat. And then you can pick up your fork and eat breakfast. You got 15 minutes to eat breakfast after that.
Okay, so how many people are at the table?
It's about 9 to a table. So.
What's the significance about 9 to a table? What's so special about that in the Army?
It's a squad size. It's a squad size element. Yeah.
And why do you think they had you do it, the table that size?
Yeah, it definitely introduces you to the camaraderie of, not only a squad size element, but you stay with your table the whole semester. And so that's their way of kind of getting you to bond with an element that has a command hierarchy. Each table has cadets from all 4 classes, and it's kind of structured in that way. So that, the firsties will sit up at the head of the table, and the plebes sit at the other end of the table, and it's kind of there's a command structure at each table, which is pretty interesting that they do that. But you're absolutely right. It definitely gets people used to what they're going to see in the force.
And so the next semester, they change up the tables?
Yes, sir. They change about every semester.
Okay.
I don't sit with my company. I sit with the strength team. I'm on the strength and conditioning team. And so the Division I teams or the core squad teams, and then even some club teams have their own tables typically, and they sit with their team.
Okay, we're gonna don't let us forget about the strength and the conditioning team, because we want to hear about that. So,
yes, sir.
So what has been the most challenging part for you personally?
It's academics. I love the field. I love getting my hands dirty. I love the summer training. I love the military aspect and the physical aspect, but academics are tough, and we have about 20 to 21 credit hours on average, and I think that's probably under reflective of what the real, the actual amount of credit hours are. But
hold on now, you said 21. Is that normal for a college student? That's kind of high end, isn't it?
It's high. It's high for a normal college student.
Yeah.
I'd say normal college student has about 14.
14 to 15, so, right? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. 14, 15.
21 plus what else?
Plus you have, so every cadet an athlete is MacArthur's famous saying. So every cadet has some type of athletic obligation, whether it's they're on a core squad team, football, basketball, baseball, etc., and then a club team like boxing or water polo. And then there's also, if you're not on either of those, you're a company athlete. Mm-hmm. So every cadet, 3 days a week after classes are over, cadets are expected to go to their respective company athletic, whether it's flag football or whatever it may be. And then those core squad athletes, so the D1 athletes, they're practicing every single day, sometimes for 3.5 hours a day.
Wow. Let's jump back. You said the most challenging part for you was academics. Why?
Yes, sir. It's a lot. It's a lot to balance. It's a lot to schedule and organize. I'm really trying to work on my organization, but it's a lot to keep track of. And especially I think when you have so many other time requirements that aren't academic, you're always trying to find time to slip in those academics. So for me, I have about a 3-hour commitment every day of going up to strength and conditioning. And so between going to class, about 4 classes a day, and going to mandatory formations, going to strength practice, usually there's some type of formation in the evening, you're just doing your homework when you get the chance. And so I think I get burnt out on academics easier than I get burnt out on the physical or military aspects.
Okay. All right. Good. So when all the things you're juggling, the academic, the physical, and the time demand start to get overwhelming, what do you do to try and manage all of the things you're doing?
It's all about the people. So you gotta lean on your friends and your classmates, and everyone is good at something. And so people here are really good because everyone's in the same position. Everyone's in this kind of shared hardship. And if I have a buddy that's really good at math, he's helping me with math, and I'm pretty good at writing papers, so I'm going to help him with his papers. And it's on an honor system, and everyone kind of respects that everyone's busy, and so people really just get each other through this place, I would absolutely say.
That's cool. So What do you think is the biggest myth or misconception about life as a cadet? Some people might think it's monotonous and only filled with discipline. You guys are walking around like robots every day.
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest misconception is that we are just robots and we get into that groove where, you just feel like an ant on an anthill going in and out of the same day over and over, and it gets a little bit robotic. And I'm not going to deny that happens sometimes. But I think what people don't realize is that the interactions every day between people is what makes this place so special. And I think it's so unique from anything else that you'd see at a normal college. I mentioned this earlier, but everyone here is going through the same shared hardship and comes from a similar enough set of experiences that led them to this place. So everyone understands each other on some type of level. It's really special to be able to walk around and say hi to any of the 4,500 people, 4,000 plus people at this school and get a response. People treat each other with absolute respect. People are friendly. And I think the little interactions that you have baked in to just that kind of monotonous day to day, when it does get robotic, people lean on each other. And the amount of memorable experiences I have with my friends and fellow cadets, I don't think I'd get that anywhere else. And I think people kind of fail to realize that it's a people organization, and it's definitely a people institution. I think people talk about West Point like it's, some type of Hogwarts, but it's really all about the people.
Cadets from West Point and across the country, send us your papers. Earlier this year, AUSA's team got together with our friends over at the United States Military Academy to provide the Army's up-and-coming generation with a paper series just to publish cadets. We are proud to announce the launch of Early Insights from the Army's future leaders. And we're excited to be working with the bright young minds who are courageously grappling with the big issues confronting the profession of arms, now and in the future. Cadets, do you want a chance to add to the conversation? Submit your articles and papers to our team here in the Education and Programs Department at AUSA. Email us at education@ausa.org.
Welcome back, everyone, to Army Matters. So, Orion, as a cadet, you've undergone this growth and development, but now you've gone back home, and that's when you really notice you've changed. Tell us about what you feel and then how people see you.
Yes, sir. I think probably everybody who's made it at least a year at West Point could speak to that position of going back home and realizing how much that you have changed. I love my friends back home. I love my friends from high school. I think when I first went home, after just a couple months of being at West Point through cadet basic training and kind of that transition period from civilian to soldier, that first period is really transformative. And I remember going home and just like thinking to myself, man, I have so much less in common with you guys now than I really thought that I had just a couple short months ago. And it was pretty interesting just to see how much growth really happened in that amount of time. Like, you're waking up at 2:30, 3 a.m. in the morning to go out to do a training mission or to start a 12-mile ruck, and your friends are just going to bed from the night before. It's just interesting to think about, where you were at just a couple short months ago versus after that soldier transformation. It's just such a different lifestyle and such a different type of timing.
Okay, so what would you say that the role that people around you play in transformation? The instructors, the coaches, other Army officers, and non-commissioned officers?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think one that I have really thought a lot about. Obviously you say that you become who you surround yourself with. There's the 5 people concept. The closest 5 people to you is like who you really transform into. But I think that's absolutely true. And I think that's why so many people here undergo a really incredible transformations, because the quality of people that we're exposed to on a daily basis, whether it's the instructors whether it's our TAC officers and NCOs, and of course, just each other. I mean, I think people here generally hold each other to a pretty high standard, certainly, and everyone holds themselves, more importantly, themselves to a high standard. And so if you just take a look at the closest 5 people around you at any given time, you're looking at 5 really squared away, really smart, intrinsically driven people, physically fit people, instructors here that I've had, specifically officers that are just have a tip-top education, incredible experience in service, just very articulate, willing to help others and help the cadets, willing to take time out of their day for lessons about leadership. I think it's really special that's part of that program.
So talk about Major Jeb. What makes him special?
Yeah, Major Benjamin Jeb. Shout out to Major Jeb. He is a mentor figure to me. I had him for 2 different classes. I'm an international affairs major here. He has really been a great mentor figure, not only a mentor figure, but I love him as an instructor. He was a ODA captain at first group, but Major Jeb is excellent, and he really takes the time out of his day to work with cadets one-on-one, and he really teaches in a way that's applicable and, bakes in some of those leadership lessons that he's absolutely qualified, I think, to teach.
ODA is Operation Detachment Alpha, which is a Special Forces detachment. So he's already a bad guy, Major Jeb. He did that as a captain, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's talk about, you said you were a Division I athlete, strength and conditioning. So describe what that is. How do you compete? What is that?
The strength and conditioning team really exists to support the other teams.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So we serve as kind of assistant strength coaches for, basketball. So I work with men's basketball here at West Point. And so I get to see those boys every day. I go up and help set up their lifts, and I conduct their lifts with them, make sure they're staying motivated and spotting them, helping them with form if needed for every team, pretty much except for football, but they got their own guys.
What have you learned from doing that as being a strength and conditioning assistant?
Not only learning how to lift, but how to run just weight room operations, how to conduct a collegiate level lift, and how to program for that type of, D1 athletics is kind of a elevated standard of strength and conditioning programming. So I've gotten the chance to learn from our amazing coaches up at Kimsey Athletic Center and just at West Point in general, and it's a pretty special opportunity.
Walk us through a moment that really captures what West Point feels like.
I think for me, a moment that really encompasses what West Point feels like is the 4th of July. This last summer, I was cadre for cadet basic training, and I had the privilege of being here for 4th of July. And we do something really special for the new cadets on the 4th of July. They're trainees, they got their head shaved, and they're kind of going through it. But on that day, we have a program for them at night where we go out to Trophy Point, which is an area right on the bank of the Hudson River, just a beautiful scenic setting, and light off a ton of fireworks. There's a band. We let them kind of let loose a little bit and sing and dance. And I think the average West Point cadet probably appreciates the 4th of July more than the average person. And so not only that, but they appreciate the meaning behind it more so now that they've, been able to learn about service. And so it's like a really special feeling moment, and it brings everybody together. And there's probably the best sense of camaraderie I've ever experienced is during that 4th of July celebration, where everybody is on the same team. There's no confusions about where people's heads are at. And it really just feels like West Point because, upstate New York is that beautiful setting and the patriotism and the service, and it all kind of comes together. It's a really special moment.
Okay.
So for me, that's the one that comes to the top of my brain.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so what type of leader, Orion, do you hope to be when you commission as an officer in about a year now?
I want to be a people-first leader. I want to know every man under my command at the platoon level. I want to know their family. I want to know what they're going through. I want to put myself in their shoes, and I just want to be present. There's a phrase, "Be where your feet are." I really like that phrase. I want to show my people that I'm there for them and that I am. It's a people business, and so I think I'm going to be a people first type of leader and really just focusing on making sure everybody understands that shared objective and why it matters. Not just that we're going to do this, but why we're doing this. And so I'm really excited to be able to see how that develops. And I'm really excited to be able to see how that plays out in the force. Can't wait.
Okay, found a question. What would you tell a young person who's thinking about military service, or they don't know what to do about considering West Point or ROTC as an option?
So I would say, while I love West Point, obviously I'm a cadet, but it doesn't matter. Whether it's ROTC, whether it's West Point, both are great. It's not about the institution. It's not about where you go to school. It's about the service itself. It's about the Army. It's about the people, and it's about what that organization means. And so whether it's West Point or ROTC or OCS or whatever it is, I think every single person, everybody should consider service to their country. Not even in a permanent capacity, but at least in a temporary capacity. It just teaches you so much. So I think every single person should at least consider some type of service. Absolutely.
So Orion, we're so proud of who you are, what you stand for. We're open and willing to come up and do podcasts up at West Point.
Once again, it's my absolute privilege to be here today with you guys, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. But I'll definitely let my friends and family know, maybe a little LinkedIn post or something like that. But I hope as many people hear this as they can, because, the lessons about service, I think more than anything else is something that everybody needs to hear.
Join AUSA, the Army's premier professional association and host of the largest land power exposition in the United States. AUSA is open to everyone, including all ranks and components. So whether you have a relationship with the U.S. Army or simply want to honor those who serve, you can learn more online at ausa.org/join.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Army Matters is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith and SMA Retired Dan Daly, and anchor hosted by Carrie Barrow-Heckes. Andy Bosnack is the associate producer and supervising sound editor. Major Ryan Crane is the writer, and Ellen Toner is the content editor. Umzinga Curry is the executive producer. Carrie Barrow-Heckes is the senior producer, and Savannah Campbell-Smith is the producer. Be sure to subscribe to Army Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Wreath. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you're not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. I'm LaSharon Duncan, hoping you have a great Army day. Hooah!